Okay, so right now in Islamabad, a meeting is happening that could literally change the map of the Middle East. For the first time in almost 50 years, top officials from the United States and Iran are sitting down at the same table. This is way more than just diplomacy. It's a high-stakes gamble, and global security is on the line.
And you got to understand, this is not just another meeting. We're talking about a potential turning point after 47 years of pure hostility. Ever since the Islamic Revolution back in 1979, these two countries have essentially been at war, just without firing directly at each other. So the real question is, why now? What could possibly bring them to the table? And is there any chance they can actually find a way forward?
So here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the big picture history, then we'll zoom right into the heart of the disagreements. And finally, we'll pull back out to see what success could possibly even mean in a situation this tense.
First up, to really appreciate why this is such a massive deal, you have to get just how deep the bad blood runs between these two. This isn't some recent spat. We're talking about nearly half a century of conflict.
So after the '79 revolution, all diplomatic ties were just cut. For decades since, their relationship has been all about sanctions and these proxy wars, where they back opposite sides in conflicts all over the region. Any communication was done through back channels, through other countries. That's why seeing them in the same room, face-to-face, isn't just a meeting. It is a genuine geopolitical earthquake.
All right, so who are the people actually in the room trying to bridge this enormous divide? Let's take a look.
On one side, you've got the U.S., represented by Vice President J.D. Vance. On the other, Iran's parliamentary speaker, M.B. Ghalibaf. But the person really feeling the pressure is Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. He's not just playing host, he's the mediator, trying to find any common ground between two nations that have spent decades building up walls of mistrust.
And now we get to the real nitty-gritty. With these guys at the table, what are the actual points of conflict? Well, there are three massive hurdles that could completely derail these talks.
First up, the Strait of Hormuz. Think of it as a tiny bottleneck that a huge chunk of the world's oil supply has to squeeze through. It's one of the most important waterways on the planet. Right now, Iran has it pretty much locked down, and they're using that control as their #1 bargaining chip, effectively holding global energy markets hostage.
And here's where you see just how far apart they are. The U.S. is pushing for some kind of joint control to make sure ships can pass through safely. Iran's response? Absolutely not. They insist on keeping sole, total control. Right now, there is zero middle ground on this.
The second huge issue, and it's a familiar one, is Iran's nuclear program. Tehran has enriched uranium to levels way beyond what you'd need for a civilian power plant. Naturally, this has everyone worried they're going for a bomb. The U.S. demand is blunt. Give up the stockpile. But for Iran, it's an issue of national pride and sovereignty. And number 3, and this one is kind of unbelievable, they can't even agree on the terms of the ceasefire that got them to the table in the first place. Iran and Pakistan are saying the truce has to include the war in Lebanon, but the U.S. and Israel are arguing that's a totally separate conflict, and it's not part of the deal.
And this disagreement over Lebanon isn't just some abstract talking point. It's casting a dark, violent shadow over the negotiations, with a human cost that's getting worse by the hour.
I mean, the irony is just staggering. As diplomats are inside talking about peace, the war outside is heating up. In just one 24-hour period, Israel carried out 200 strikes in Lebanon. It just begs the question, right? How can you possibly build trust in a negotiating room when the battlefield is on fire?
And the human cost of this it's just catastrophic. The death toll in Lebanon is now over 2,000 people, and that number is climbing every single day these talks drag on.
And the humanitarian crisis is almost hard to comprehend. More than 1 million people have been forced to flee their homes. Just let that sink in. That is 1/5 of the entire population of Lebanon. 1 out of every 5 people is now a refugee in their own country.
Lebanon's deputy prime minister put it best when he spoke to the BBC. He asked, how can you engage in meaningful discussions while tens and hundreds of people are being killed or injured? It's a question that's just hanging over everything.
So when you look at all of this, the deep divisions, the active war, the decades of pure mistrust, you have to wonder, what does a win even look like coming out of Islamabad?
So, are they going to walk out of there with a big, shiny, comprehensive peace treaty that solves everything? Let's be realistic. The answer is almost certainly no. The gap between them is just way too wide to fix in one go.
And this right here is probably the most important thing to understand. Success, in this case, isn't some grand treaty. It's measured in small but absolutely vital steps. A win is just extending the ceasefire. A win is simply agreeing to meet again. And maybe the biggest one of all, just setting up a basic framework so this conversation doesn't die. It's not about building a palace overnight. It's about laying the first few planks on a very, very long bridge.
So as these talks go late into the night, the outcome is really on a knife's edge. This whole thing isn't just about politicians and paper. It's a test of whether diplomacy itself can even work anymore. And the world is waiting to see which way it's going to go. A breakthrough, however small, or a complete breakdown that sends us sliding right back into open conflict.